I filed for divorce. I'll be taking the house and the car. I know it will be tough, but hang in there. I'm not sure how much time you have left, but I hope you can push through. It might sound like kind words, but in reality, they were sharp and cutting. His smile at that moment hurt me more than anything. How could he do this to me? Leave me when I'm sick? Wasn't our promise to face challenges together? I can't stop crying from the shock of his words and attitude. There's no way I can forgive him. I intend to make him feel my pain, even if my body can't bear it anymore. This firm determination signals the start of my next step, a journey of revenge. My name is Anna. At 45, I've always been a dedicated housewife taking care of my family. I used to enjoy every day with my husband, Tom. Just like old times. We met through a friend's introduction. He's always been sociable, able to connect with anyone. When I was nervous at first, he reached out to me with a warm smile, and I quickly opened up. Our days together were as sweet as colorful candies, so delightful that I'd lose track of time. I genuinely wanted to spend even more time with him, and maybe he felt the same, cherishing our moments together too. It's hard to believe now, but we loved each other deeply and promised to marry. Living with him felt like a dream. Every day sparkled, and I believe we always share smiles in the future. But as time went on, Tom began to change, likely due to the stress from his job. His salary isn't that high, he didn't pursue specialized qualifications in school, and lacks a strong academic background, which limited his job choices. I suggested trying a new job a few times, but he always responded reluctantly, "I'm good for now." While I'm working full-time and we don't have any financial issues, I worried about what would happen if we had a child or if I got sick and couldn't work. To alleviate this anxiety, I made a suggestion. "Tom, my company's short-staffed in administration. You don't need any special qualifications, just the basics. Interested?" One day, a friend from my company's HR told me about an opening in administration. I thought he might be interested and suggested it, believing it could be a good opportunity to improve his challenging job situation. But his reaction was cold. "Why are you making decisions about my job without asking me? I chose this place myself. Are you saying there's something wrong with it?" I was taken aback. I had simply made a suggestion out of concern for his future. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you with that sudden proposal. I just thought the conditions at your current job seemed tough, and maybe this company would be a better fit for you." But he didn't take it that way. "Just because you're my wife doesn't mean you can interfere in my career decisions as if you were a stranger. I have my own thoughts, you know." As he walked away, I murmured to myself. The word stranger resonated deeply. I am his wife, and we are a family, yet his words and attitude felt like they were meant for someone else. A crack was growing between us, widening rapidly. Tom had also been harsh with my family. My mother, a truly kind person, would regularly visit our home while I was away for work. She cleaned and cooked delightful meals, storing them in the refrigerator as her way of checking in on us. I was grateful for her kindness. I often invited my mother over for dinner, but lately, Tom seemed increasingly irritated by her presence. When he came home and saw her in the living room, he'd snap, "You're here again." Both my mother and I were taken aback by his remark. It made me question the state of our relationship and our future. How could we bridge the growing gap between us? My mother, with a gentle smile, said, "It's all right, Anna. If my presence makes you uncomfortable, I apologize. I'll leave earlier today." Hearing her say that, especially when she's always gone out of her way to help us despite her busy schedule, was heart-wrenching. "Tom, please think about how Mom feels," I pleaded. "She's always looking out for us. Please show her a little respect." Tears welled up in my eyes, changing the room's atmosphere. I remembered all the times my mother had brightened our home and couldn't understand why Tom would speak to her that way. When I come home after working hard every day, all I want is to relax. It's exhausting to have someone else around all the time in my own house. I tried to understand Tom's perspective, but I couldn't shake the appreciation I felt for my mother. Honestly, I didn't think I was wrong. It felt like Tom was being stubborn, but I wasn't sure how to express my feelings in a way he'd understand. My mother said, "Don't worry about it. If everyone's happy, that's all that matters to me," and gave me a comforting smile. Her warm words filled me with overwhelming guilt. That night, as I enjoyed the delicious meal she had cooked, my emotions were a jumble of appreciation and remorse. I couldn't stop thinking about Tom. I spent countless nights pondering how our relationship could improve, but a much larger challenge emerged at work. I suddenly felt dizzy and fainted. Thankfully, my colleagues acted quickly, calling an ambulance and rushing me to a nearby major hospital. The medical tests started, but everything seemed like a blur. I tried to reach Tom, but he didn't respond. Then I received the diagnosis: cancer. Fortunately, it was caught early, and with proper treatment, the doctors said I'd be okay. Still, I knew cancer treatments could be grueling, so I steeled myself for the long and challenging road ahead. I told Tom about the diagnosis and my hospitalization, but his response was indifferent. His silence made me feel incredibly lonely, yet I chose to focus on my treatment, believing that moving forward was the only option. The cancer treatment was tougher than I'd imagined. My health deteriorated rapidly, forcing me to stay in bed most of the time. One day, amidst this struggle, Tom finally appeared in my hospital room. "How are you feeling?" he asked casually. "Well, it's pretty rough," I replied, half jokingly. "It might have been a bit easier if you were by my side." To be honest, I was frustrated by his attitude. Why hadn't he come sooner? His support could have made a world of difference during these trying times. Instead of feeling relieved about our reunion, I was left feeling more isolated. I found myself increasingly irritated as I reflected on our past. Then, what Tom said next left me genuinely shocked and stunned. "I filed for divorce. I'll take the house and the car. I know it's tough, but hang in there. I don't know how much time you have left, but I hope you keep fighting." "Wait, are you serious?" I exclaimed. "Divorce?" A storm of questions raged within me. Didn't we promise to always stay together? I always believed that true couples would overcome challenges together. Tom's words confused me and left me feeling detached. I whispered to myself, "I don't need him anymore. I'll move forward on my own. I'll just forget about him." I decided that he would regret underestimating me, but first, I needed to end our relationship properly. "I get it. I'm sorry for everything. Keep the house, the car, whatever. If you want compensation money, I'll pay. Thanks for everything," I said. Tom looked surprised at first, but soon his expression shifted to a smug smile. "I didn't expect you to accept it so easily. I thought you'd throw a tantrum. Anyway, take care of yourself and don't bother inviting me to your funeral." As I watched him leave the room, a smile spread across my face. He didn't realize he had walked right into my trap. It would be interesting to see how his life changed now. I called a colleague from a company I knew. "Hello, long time no talk. I have a favor to ask. Can you help?" At first, he sounded surprised, but once I explained, he agreed. "All right, let's give it a try." Everything was set. Imagining Tom's shocked and anxious face made me smirk. This new sense of excitement even boosted my motivation for my medical treatment. A few days passed, and one afternoon after my treatment, I noticed that my cell phone had received 200 missed calls from Tom. The thrill of waiting for his call was oddly satisfying. Once I calmed down, I called him back and heard his shaky voice on the other end. "Anna, help me. I never expected this," he pleaded. Imagining his distressed tone made me chuckle. This was exactly what I had planned. Trying to sound concerned, I said, "Tom, tell me what happened." He took a deep breath before saying, "My name's on the company's layoff list. I can't believe this is happening." Listening to his panicked voice, I smirked, knowing everything was unfolding just as I had orchestrated. The person I had contacted was the head of sales at our company. I had asked him to reconsider the business dealings with Tom's company. Initially confused, he reviewed the transaction history and decided it was best to choose a different partner. That's why Tom's company started calling me. That's when I decided to reveal something I had kept to myself. "You know, there are rumors in your company about you and the new girl. Everyone likes her because she's so cheerful, and there are whispers about an affair. Is that true?" I could hear disbelief in Tom's voice. "Are you serious?" "You can't be serious. This has to be a joke." His surprise was understandable. After all, who would think an ordinary employee could influence his work? "Well, actually," I said, "I'm the CEO of this company." There was a pause. I could tell Tom was speechless on the other end. "It's no lie," I continued. "That's how we've been living so comfortably. My annual income is around $1 million. Your regular salary wouldn't have been enough to support your shopping habits." The truth was, Tom's spending habits were out of control. The $1,400 allowance he received from me was like a second salary, yet it was never enough. He rushed out and approached me with a pleading tone. "Can I have a little more?" At this rate, the money he receives from me might end up surpassing his actual salary. Most people would have abandoned such a luxurious lifestyle for something more stable, but since I earn $1 million a year, Giving Tom a $1,400 allowance each month isn't a big deal for me. I've always wondered what he spent that money on. Tom, yesterday was payday, wasn't it? I asked. I've always given you extra money on payday, but that might be difficult from now on. We're not a couple anymore, and it's only natural that you can't expect that monthly allowance since we're divorced. I wondered how he would manage from now on. Oh, and be careful with the mortgage on the house. It's $2,000 a month. I know it'll be tough, but you'll need to manage it well. If you're late with the payment, you might have to leave the house. While a $2,000 loan isn't a burden for me, it's a significant amount for Tom. From his reaction, it was clear he was confused and in disbelief, repeatedly saying things like, "Really? And that's crazy." What I said was the truth. This is the result of my efforts to maintain our relationship, yet he took advantage of me when I was by his side, pursuing only his own desires. Maybe it's time he faced the consequences of his actions. Why did it come to this? I've been laid off and now have to figure out how to get by. How am I going to pay the rent this month? Despair was evident in his voice. He must have felt lost and uncertain about how to move forward. If I were in his position, I find it hard to imagine a brighter future. I understood that Tom's situation must be overwhelming and confusing, but it was a direct result of his past disrespectful behavior. If he had shown genuine care for me and my family, things wouldn't have turned out this way. This is the consequence of his choices. Had he truly respected us, he wouldn't be facing such troubles. Tom remained silent, perhaps at a loss for words. I felt a mix of pity and amusement. Was this it? Could I hang up now? Just then, he spoke in a panicked voice. "Wait, can we reconsider our relationship one more time? I know it sounds selfish, but I realize now how important you were to me." The idea of starting over with him made my heart race. After all the pain he caused me and how he abandoned me, the thought of going back felt daunting. He took a deep breath. "I know I've been reckless lately, and I'm really sorry I couldn't visit you in the hospital more often. But once you're better, let's go somewhere peaceful and have a relaxing time together. I want to see your smile again." His words felt nostalgic, reminiscent of what he said when he proposed. He promised a life filled with laughter and happiness. Back then, I was so swept up by his words that I jumped into the relationship without thinking. Married life, however, proved difficult, especially with his reckless spending habits. Maybe if I had understood him better, things could have been different. Tom's voice grew weaker. "Anna, I can't live without you. I want to be by your side and face life's challenges together. Can we start fresh, just one more time?" His voice was filled with sadness and a hint of desperation. Despite the emotion, it was hard to trust him after everything that had happened. "Stop it already. We're done. I've chosen a new path, and I can't go back," I said firmly. There was a trace of sorrow in his voice, but I could sense he genuinely wanted me back. "Please let me say one last thing. I truly love you, Anna. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here." I could have been swayed by his words, but I had made a decision about my future and our relationship. I wouldn't be influenced by his sweet talk any longer. Enough. Words like that will change my mind. Think about it. Don't you have another girlfriend? Shouldn't you focus on her? I knew about Tom's new relationship from information provided by his boss. His declarations of love now seemed hollow. I realized he'd say anything convenient to get what he wanted. It was frustrating that he only reached out when he needed something and turned away when times got tough. We couldn't be together anymore. Spend quality time with her and forget about me. I will be reaching out, but if you need to contact me, speak to my lawyer. Take care of yourself, Tom. His pleas seemed sincere, but letting him go would probably mean his life would become more difficult. That was his choice. I had my own life to move forward with. I wanted him to stand on his own 2 feet. I hung up and adjusted my settings to block any further contact from him. According to my lawyer, Tom repeatedly tried to reach me. My decision was firm, so the lawyer respected it and provided no details about me. Unexpectedly, my lawyer suggested pursuing damages. Initially, I hadn't considered it, but it seemed like a way to seek compensation. I knew Tom and his new partner weren't wealthy. There were rumors about his serious debts. Upon investigating his affair partner, I found she had fled due to financial issues. When I contacted her family, they were furious and had her working hard at home. Actions always have consequences, and it seemed they were facing theirs. I had overcome cancer and made a full recovery. My speedy recovery even surprised the doctors. Returning to the office, I found a letter on my desk from the supportive sales manager. His heartwarming words touched me. When colleagues heard I was single again, some kindly offered to set me up. But after my past marriage, I wanted to cherish my time and focus on myself for now.